Nothing happened on his first night in the hostel. No noise, no movement, no sign of danger. That was the problem. The room felt wrong the moment he stepped inside. Not abandoned, not empty, occupied. The silence wasn't peaceful. It felt deliberate, like it was listening. The air near the back wall was colder, heavier, as if it carried a memory that refused to fade. When he lay down, the bed dipped slightly. Just once, as if someone had been there and moved away. A faint smell rose in the darkness. Wet soil, old and deep, like earth that hadn't been touched by sunlight in years. He told himself it was imagination. Hostile rumors. First day stress. But as sleep slowly took over, a thought crept in and refused to leave. If this room was empty, why did it feel like something had been waiting for him? And more importantly, why did it feel angry that he was finally here? As if his arrival hadn't disturbed the silence, but completed something that had been unfinished for a very long time. Morning came without warning. No nightmare, no scream, just sunlight cutting through the dusty window, landing across the floor like nothing had ever been wrong. He woke up confused, almost embarrassed by the thoughts he'd had the night before. The room looked normal again. Ordinary, empty. The smell was gone. The silence had weight no more. He got ready quickly, trying not to think too much. Today was important. First proper day as a university student. New campus, new faces, new start. Outside, the hostel felt alive in a way his room never did. Students rushed down the corridors, laughing, complaining about classes, talking about food. Life, loud and careless. The building itself was old. Paint peeled off the walls in thin layers. The stairs creaked under every step. Wasn't scary, just tired, like it had seen too many generations pass through it. Someone joked, "This hostel looks older than the university itself." Everyone laughed. During the day, everything felt normal. Orientation sessions, confusing schedules, long lines. By the time he returned in the evening, exhaustion had replaced curiosity. His room welcomed him with the same dull stillness. He noticed small details now. The cupboard door didn't close fully, no matter how hard he pushed it. The fan made a soft clicking sound every few seconds. And the back wall, shared with the rear side of the hostel, felt colder when he leaned against. Still, nothing worth worrying about. At dinner, he overheard seniors talking about rooms. One of them laughed and said, "Never take a room facing the back." Someone asked why. The senior shrugged. No reason, just bad luck. They changed the topic immediately. Later that night, he ran into the hostel warden while returning. The man glanced at his room number, paused for a second longer than necessary, then said, "If you need anything, come during office hours. And don't wander behind the hostel at night." No explanation, no warning, just a rule. Back inside his room, he sat on the bed again. The light buzzed softly. The walls felt closer than before. He shook his head and smiled to himself. People love stories, especially in hostels. Old buildings always came with old rumors. He lay down, confident this night would be different. As he reached to turn off the light, his fingers brushed against something damp on the wall. He pulled his hand back quickly. Nothing was there. Dry, cold, normal. He turned off the light anyway. In the darkness, comfort returned easily. But just before sleep claimed him, a thought drifted through his mind, quiet, uninvited, and unsettling. Why did no one want a room facing the back? And why did everyone avoid answering that question? The first sign was so small that it almost didn't matter. Almost. He woke up in the middle of the night with a strange pressure on his chest. Not heavy enough to panic, just enough to feel present. His eyes opened slowly. The room was dark but familiar. The faint outline of the cupboard, the window, the door. Everything was where it should be. Then he heard it. A soft knock, not on the door, on the wall behind his bed. Once, then again, slow, careful, as if someone didn't want to be heard. He held his breath and waited. Nothing followed. No footsteps, no voices, just silence returning to its place. He sat up, heart beating a little faster now, and looked at the wall. Smooth, unmarked, cold when he touched it. Old pipes, he told himself. Buildings this old make noise all the time. He lay back down and forced his eyes shut. Sleep came in pieces. When morning arrived, sunlight revealed something that made him pause. His shoes. He always left them near the door, facing outward. That morning, They were turned toward the bed. He stared at them for a long moment, trying to remember if he'd moved them. He hadn't. A laugh escaped his mouth, sharp and nervous. Getting paranoid already, he muttered. Classes distracted him again. Assignments. Names he'd already forgotten. Noise everywhere. By evening, the room felt smaller. The fan clicked overhead. The cupboard door stood slightly open. He closed it firmly before sitting down to study. A few minutes later, it creaked open again. This time, he noticed the smell. Bit soil. Stronger now. He stood up and searched the room. Under the bed, behind the table, near the window. Nothing. That night, just as he drifted towards sleep, he felt the bed shift. Not violently, just enough to feel like someone had sat down at the edge. He froze. His body refused to move, as if waiting for permission. Seconds passed, then minutes. The pressure lifted. The bed returned to normal. He turned on the light immediately. The room stood empty. No footprints, no marks, only the quiet hum of electricity. He didn't sleep after that. By morning, one thought had settled deep in his mind, heavy and uncomfortable. Fear didn't arrive screaming. It arrived slowly, wrapped in doubt. By the fourth night, he stopped calling it coincidence. The disturbances were no longer random. They followed a rhythm. Every night, around the same time, the air inside the room would change. Between 3 and 4 in the morning, the fan would slow slightly, even though the switch never moved. The temperature near the back wall dropped enough to raise goosebumps on his skin, and the silence returned, thick, watchful, intentional. He began checking the time whenever he woke up suddenly. 3:17 a.m., 3:42 a.m., always the same hour. Then came the sounds. Not knocks anymore. Breathing. Soft. Shallow. So close it felt like it brushed against his ear. He slept facing the wall now, afraid that if he turned around, he would see something he couldn't unsee. The smell of wet soil became familiar. It crept in slowly, like a memory rising from the floor. Some mornings, faint brown stains appeared near the wall. He slept facing the wall now, afraid that if he turned around, he would see something he couldn't unsee. The smell of wet soil became familiar. It crept in slowly, like a memory rising from the floor. Some mornings, faint brown stains appeared near the wall. He wiped them away, telling himself it was moisture, dirt from shoes, anything. But the stains always returned. He tried praying one night. The moment the words left his lips, the room went silent in a way that felt wrong. Not calm, offended. The air grew heavier, pressing down on his chest until he stopped. When he ignored everything, when he pretended nothing was happening, the activity increased. Footsteps circled the bed, slow, dragging, as if something was being pulled across the floor. Yet every morning, the floor was clean. No marks, no proof. He started writing things down. Times, smells, sounds. A pattern formed on paper that he couldn't deny in his mind. The room wasn't random. It was responding, watching, learning him. One night, half asleep, he felt something brush against his ankle. Cold, rough, brief. He didn't scream. He didn't move. He just lay there, heart racing, staring into darkness, repeating the same thought over and over. Whatever was in this room, it knew he was awake. By the end of the week, the hostel felt different. Not louder, not quieter, just distant. He started noticing how people reacted when he mentioned his room. At first, they laughed. Hostel life does that to everyone, someone said. Give it time. But the laughter always faded too quickly. When he told a senior about the noises, the smile slipped from a man's face for just a second. Then it returned, forced and thin. Probably rats, the senior said. Big ones. He never met the senior again. Another student, younger than him, grew uncomfortable the moment the room number came up. Change it if you can, he whispered. Then, realizing what he'd said, he shook his head. Forget it. I don't know anything. The silence that followed was heavier than any denial. He stopped asking questions, not because he believed them, but because every conversation left him feeling more alone than before. Sleep became rare. When he did sleep, his dreams didn't feel like dreams. He walked through narrow spaces filled with dirt and roots. Hands reached for him from below, not violent, begging. He woke up one night, hearing his name spoken clearly, not whispered, said, from behind him. He turned around instantly. Nothing, but the air near the back wall trembled, like something had just moved away. His reflection in the dark window startled him. His eyes looked sunken, skin pale, as if the room was slowly taking something from him. Late one evening, he noticed something that made his stomach twist. The backside of the hostel. Most windows faced the courtyard. Only a few rooms faced the rear. His room was one of them, and at night, while other windows glowed with light, the backside remained dark. Not because the lights were off, because no one stood near them. It hit him then, sharp and cold. Whatever was happening, it wasn't happening to anyone else. The room had chosen him, and for the first time, the thought formed clearly in his mind. He wasn't being haunted, he was being kept. Curiosity replaced fear the day he stopped sleeping. When exhaustion takes over, the mind stops caring about consequences. It only wants answers. Late one evening, after the hostel settled into its usual noise, he walked toward the backside of the building. No one followed. No one ever did. A narrow path ran behind the hostel, hidden by overgrown bushes and broken fencing. The ground felt uneven beneath his feet, soft in places where it shouldn't have been. The smell hit him immediately. Its soil, stronger than it had ever been inside his room. The hostel's rear wall loomed above him, stained with age and moss. His window sat directly above, dark and silent. As he moved further back, the bushes thinned. That's when he saw it. Stone, not a wall, not rubble. Gravestones, some standing, most broken, all old. There were no names carved into them. No dates, just rough, eroded shapes pushing up from the earth. The ground around them had sunk unevenly, as if the soil had never truly settled. He knelt and touched one of the stones. Cold, damp, the same cold he felt near his bed every night. A realization crept into his mind, slow and horrifying. The stains in his room, the smell, the timing. He looked up at the hostel wall again, measured the distance. His room stood directly above the center of the graves. A sudden sound made him turn. Footsteps behind him, slow, dragging. He spun around, heart pounding. Nothing, just the wind moving through dead leaves. When he returned to his room that night, he didn't turn on the light. He stood in the doorway, staring into the darkness, finally understanding the truth he had avoided for days. The room wasn't haunted. It was built on something that was never meant to be disturbed. Once you see something like that, you can't pretend it doesn't exist. The graveyard followed him everywhere. In lectures, his mind drifted back to the broken stones. In a hostel mess, the smell of damp earth clung to his senses. Even daylight felt thinner now, like it couldn't fully touch the truth he had uncovered. He started searching quietly, not online, not in public. Old places hold old answers. The university library sat in a forgotten corner of campus, rarely visited. Dust-coated shelves that hadn't been touched in years. There, buried between outdated records and yellowed newspapers, he found fragments. Old campus maps. The hostel didn't exist in the earliest versions. That land was marked blank. Later maps showed something else. A burial ground, unlabeled, no official name. In student records from decades ago, he found passing mentions. Construction delays, protests that faded without explanation, funds approved under special conditions. No details. He asked an elderly librarian about the backside of the hostel. The woman adjusted her glasses and studied his face for a long moment. Some places, she said slowly, are better left unrecorded. That night, he spoke to a former student he tracked down through alumni pages. The man refused to meet in person. Over the phone, his voice shook. They built over the graves, he said, but not all of them were moved. How many? The boy asked. A pause. One, the man whispered. One was never identified. The call ended abruptly. Back in his room, the air felt tighter than ever. The walls seemed closer. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the single unclaimed grave, about how something could be buried without a name and forgotten without peace. At exactly 3:29 a.m., the smell returned, stronger than ever, and from the back wall came a sound he hadn't heard before. Scratching, slow, deliberate, as if something on the other side was trying to be noticed. For the first time since moving in, he didn't feel watched. He felt called. He stopped pretending after that night. There was no point. The scratching didn't stop when he covered his ears. It didn't stop when he turned on the lights. It didn't stop when he whispered for it to go away. It only stopped when he spoke. "I know," he said, his voice barely steady. The room reacted instantly. The air shifted like something had leaned closer. The smell of soil thickened until it burned his throat. His eyes watered, not from fear but from the weight of it, ancient, damp, suffocating. He sat on the edge of the bed, heart hammering, waiting. The footsteps came next, not circling anymore, standing still, right behind him. He didn't turn around. Some instinct, older than thought, told him not to. Instead, he stared at the wall in front of him. That's when he saw it. Letters began to appear slowly, as if pressed from the other side. Not written, carved. The paint cracked first, then thin lines cut through the surface, deep and deliberate. One letter at a time. Ed, E, A, O, E. His breath caught in his chest. The wall shuddered once, then went still. A moment later, more lines appeared beneath it. T, Ush, I, S. Then finally, O, M. He didn't scream. He didn't run. Something about the message felt wrong in a way he couldn't explain. It wasn't a threat. It was a warning. His legs felt weak as he stood and stepped back. Why? He whispered. The light flickered violently, plunging the room into darkness. In that darkness, a voice finally came. Not loud, not angry, tired, because it said close to his ear, "You are not the one who should be here." The light snapped back on. The wall stood clean again. No scratches, no letters. Only the smell remained. He packed a small bag that night, hands shaking, mind racing. But as he reached for the door, a thought stopped him cold. If something was warning him to leave, what exactly was it trying to protect him from? He couldn't sleep that night. Not in the room. Not anywhere nearby. The warning echoed in his mind, sharper than any fear. He needed answers. He returned to the back of the hostel, flashlight in hand, determined to see everything in the cold moonlight. The graveyard waited for him, silent and indifferent. But tonight, something was different. One of the stones, directly beneath his room, was empty. No soil covering it, no remains, just a shallow pit, disturbed, as if it had been recently opened. The realization hit him slowly, cold and sharp. The ghost wasn't trying to scare him away. It was trying to protect him. The spirit of the unidentified grave had never found rest. Something else had taken its place. Something that now occupied the room he had been living in. He ran back inside, but the room didn't feel the same. The air pressed down harder. The shadows moved in sharper, more deliberate ways. He didn't wait for another warning. He packed quickly, grabbing only the essentials. As he stepped toward the door, the faint whisper returned, closer this time. Leave now. He didn't argue. He didn't hesitate. And as he crossed the threshold, the room seemed to sigh, almost relieved. Behind him, the walls shifted subtly, shadows stretching toward the empty grave outside. He never looked back. Later, he learned the room was reassigned to a new student. Everything appeared normal, but he knew the truth. Some presences weren't meant to harm. Some are meant to protect. And some rooms were never meant to be occupied by the living. He didn't return to that room. He didn't even look at the hostel from the outside. But he couldn't shake the feeling that the place was still alive, still watching, still waiting. Weeks later, he heard from a friend that the room had been assigned to another student. The boy moved in confidently, laughing, unaware of the history beneath his feet. That night, somewhere inside the walls, something stirred. Soft scratching, a cold draft, the faint smell of wet soil creeping into the air. He imagined the new student lying down, eyes closing. The moment the door shut, the whispers returned. The ghost, or whatever had been trapped, hovered just out of reach. Not to scare, not yet. A single thought remained heavy in his mind. Some places are not haunted. They are occupied. Occupied by the past. Occupied by the unseen. Occupied by those who never found rest. And sometimes, they only speak when it's too late. Because by the time you realize the warning, the room has already chosen its next occupant. The cycle continues. Endlessly, silently, and in that silence, the dead wait patiently. The last sound, the softest, almost unnoticed, was a whisper from the back wall. You are too late. The light flickered once, then nothing. The room returned to stillness. But the presence remained, waiting, watching, and the next student would never know.